All right, so welcome back. No action required. That's our topic. We're talking about perception and knowledge and the difference between the two. It's one of the fundamentals of A Course in Miracles, and we won't spend too much time on this today, but where we are is chapter 3 of the text of A Course in Miracles, section 3, Perception versus Knowledge is the title of that, and we're coming to you straight out of paragraph 5 today. And that's it. There's plenty to say here, but what I really want to do today is sum it up. Perceiving truly is the goal of this course. True perception, correcting our perception, cleaning it up, so to speak, that's as far as any spirituality can take you. God takes the final step himself. True perception is a prerequisite for awakening. Knowledge is what it sounds like, really. It's simply to know. God is. Just that. Knowledge is certainty. It's simply knowing. It's certainty. And when we awaken, when we recognize that we're where we've always been, at home in God, there is no self or other any longer. So there's nothing to perceive. Knowledge is beyond perception. This course brings us to the point where God takes the final step himself. In other words, it brings us just shy of awakening. And perceiving truly is the prerequisite for this. Doesn't mean that we don't get flashes along the way. You may have had some of these experiences where you just knew, where you were in the presence of God. You were the presence of God, and you just knew. You may have had some of those. The Course refers to those experiences as revelation. Now, if you've had them and returned to the world of duality, it's a stark contrast. That's for sure. And if you haven't had that experience, don't worry about that. If that is meant to come for you in this lifetime, then it will. Ultimately, we're all awake anyway. The separation never occurred. So when all of this appears to happen is, well, it's unknown to me when you're going to become enlightened. I don't know when in this thing that we call linear time that's going to happen. Who knows when that's going to come? Our job is not to spend too much time, or any time preferably, worrying about that, and simply forgive what's in front of us right now in the present moment, and allow the Holy Spirit to heal our unconscious guilt. It's to learn to perceive truly. That is the prerequisite. So let's get there as quickly as possible, right? Paragraph 5 talks a great deal about certainty, and certainty is of God. It's of God. It's not of the ego. The ego doesn't know anything at all. And until we learn to perceive truly, we can't know anything. Think of knowing a person. Right? Let's just use this as an example. until you perceive someone truly, you can't really know that person, can you? You can't know him, can't know her until you perceive them truly. And if we're asking questions about God, what is God? Who is God? I think you know. Right? If we're asking those questions, then that stands as conclusive proof that we don't know him. If we're asking questions about God, we don't know God, do we? We could say that we do, but that's simply in the domain of perception. We can say we do. We can say that we're awake. We can say we've had 27,000 different enlightenment experiences in the last 48 hours. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but you get the point. We can say that we've had all of these things, but unless we perceive truly, we can't know. And if we're asking questions, then we don't know. We ask questions in all aspects of life when we don't know the answer to something, don't we? Doesn't matter what realm of experience we're talking about when we're asking questions. It's because we don't know the answer and we want to know. So while you're here asking questions, keep asking, right? Ask your inner teacher for guidance. Yes, do that. Do that. Your inner teacher knows exactly what to do right now and at all times. So because certainty is of God and it does not require action. Knowledge does not require action, it simply is. There's no action required. What's required of us here when we're still asking questions? Ask your inner teacher these questions. That's what I recommend. In fact, I can't recommend that highly enough that you ask the correct teacher. This course is practically begging for us. It's inviting us. It repeats over and over. Ask your inner teacher, not the ego. Ask your inner teacher, not the ego. The ego doesn't know. The ego is confusion itself. It's fear itself. And it's completely illusory. And all it does when we ask the ego is it keeps us stuck. It gives us a little carrot, so to speak. It gives us 25 minutes of pleasure, and then it's over. Maybe 26 on a good day. What the ego gives us is a band-aid. It is a temporary solution to make us feel good, but it never lasts. It can't last. It can't last. So we're invited and encouraged to ask our inner teacher who knows. Of ourselves, we can't guarantee a beneficial and the highest, best outcome in every situation for every single living thing across all space and time. Guaranteed. Can we guarantee that for every living thing when we make decisions on our own? Throughout space and time, remember, not just in the next 2 or 3 minutes, throughout all space and time. Can we guarantee that? And when you answer no, let's be honest, then we are invited to ask our inner teacher. Isn't this course simple? We're the ones that make it hard by refusing to do it. I know. Yeah. Like I say, it's an adult endeavor. Welcome to the path. Because don't you want to wake up? I mean, really, really, that's what we all want deep down. That is the call that has us even interested in spirituality in the first place. There are a number of world spiritual traditions, and it seems like every time you turn on your phone or your computer and look on the internet, there's another one or another two or three or four, or you could practice one of the traditional religions or a much more traditional form of spirituality even than that, that's been around for thousands of years, or something that's been around for 15 minutes. There are many doors, and it doesn't matter which of these that you practice. The essence of them, the content, is all the same. We're all waking up. We're already awake, but we're having this experience of awakening. Now, there are many different roads that you can take. And that explains the breadth and the diversity of spiritual traditions that are here for us to choose from. But it's worth repeating, doing it, actually doing the practice, is what really teaches us. It's what shows us that the teachings are true. Simply understanding something intellectually is all well and good, but it's not enough. It is. It's not enough. And what we inevitably find on the path is that perceiving something is not the same as knowing it. Because no matter how spiritualized, no matter how spiritual or how high or clear our perception, it's still perception, which involves a subject and an object. Right here in paragraph 5 says, even if it's highly, highly spiritualized, it still involves the body. Yeah. Another way of looking at that, it still involves a subject and an object. Even our truest, clearest perception is still perception. Now, happily, when we reach that, it's not long before God takes the final step himself. We've prepared ourselves for that, for knowledge. And with knowledge, there's no action required. It simply is. Now, that doesn't mean that we just sit here. That doesn't mean that we expect Jesus or Buddha or our guide or guides to wipe away all of the bad shit that we've ever done and will keep doing. And when this physical organism craps out, then we're automatically brilliantly saved. Now we've got to do the actual work. It's for grown-ups. Spirituality is an adult endeavor. Now, you may know people that believe otherwise, so be it. There is a reason why you're interested in A Course in Miracles. There's a reason why you're on this path. And I invite you to ask your inner teacher to direct your forgiveness. Powerful, powerful. In my experience teaching this course, people begin A Course in Miracles a lot of times because they've tried many other things and they're still either not connecting or they're disillusioned with them. And many people come to this having been disillusioned by the traditional world religions or other forms of alternative spirituality. And again, there are many doors, but people come to this material. Actually, it really comes to them when they're ready to go home. This is a path. The miracle shortens time. This practice of true forgiveness can take you there. There's nowhere to go, of course, but we use terms like journey in spirituality, path, walk, right? We use these terms just to symbolize, to represent this process of setting the ego aside. So true perception is the prerequisite for knowledge, even if we get glimpses along the way. Until we have completed all of our forgiveness lessons, then we won't have the experience of true perception all of the time, not just here and there. Although if you're having it here and there, that's better than not having it at all, isn't it? Think of where you were when you started and where you are now. How much progress have you made? And it's what we call progress. Of course, there's nowhere to go. Everything is perfect, complete, healed, and whole. Ideas leave not their source, and you are the thought of God. That's really powerful when you think about it, isn't it? It is. It most definitely is. All right. So thank you all for joining me. Here's the subscription button. That's the red arrow. I really want to invite you to join me. And it's my pleasure to offer these teachings 5 or 6 days a week. I think that when we commit to a spiritual path, it's very, very important to have consistency. Isn't it? Especially with this material. It's very important to develop some consistency. And these videos are aimed to be a resource for you. And if you have questions or comments about them, please feel welcome to do that. Now, as you may know, I'm going to start a live stream over on my Patreon page in February. That's going to be weekly, and these will be longer, up to an hour, with the opportunity for live questions and answers. By the way, when you subscribe over there, if you do, the archived live streams will all be available. And my aim with this is to have some live Q&A, because I think that's valuable, and to be able to get into some of these metaphysical concepts here in the course in a little bit more detail. Actually, in a lot more detail, because that's a longer block of time. So this YouTube channel will, of course, continue, because the frequency and consistency is highly, highly important. In fact, it's critical, isn't it? All right. So I'd love to hear your comments, questions if you have them. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you all very soon.